North State neurologist who sees a lot of the local patients is, in his words, extremely alarmed at their lessening cognitive abilities. They can't think clearly. How many people are getting forgetful? Your short-term memory is the first thing to go as your neurological system becomes damaged from air pollution. And now look at the studies we have. And I don't want anybody to believe a word I'm saying. Please just search this out. We're now seeing studies from major institutions stating that particulates in the air appear to be the greatest single causal factor for neurological disease. They don't acknowledge climate engineering, of course. That would be a grave mistake on their part, because the hammer of the government would be lowered on them immediately in countless ways. It's just a fact. This is a story that the government will try to hide as long as they can, but this issue, more than any other issue, affects every single one of us, everything we hold dear. It's the greatest single effect on the future that our children may not have now because of the damage being done by these programs. A lot of sources of human damage to the planet. I'm not trying to ignore that at all. But the greatest single assault on the environment, on us, on the biosphere as a whole, is without question, mathematically, climate engineering.
Catastrophe, target California. Now, in the case of California, one, we have a shredded ozone layer, northern and southern hemispheres now. The power structure is trying desperately to hide that from us. We can see our trees around town here. They're burnt to a crisp. So, and we had a recent disclosure I'll talk about in a minute from NASA. But we also have a very straightforward equation. We know from available science that when you aerosolize the atmosphere, it diminishes and disperses rainfall. This is not about cloud seeding to create rain. Again, it's about creating artificial, toxic cloud cover. So we have satellite imagery, which I'll show in a moment, and this is what blocks our storm track. This is what's keeping the rain from falling in California. If you see off the U.S. West Coast, if you look closely near the bottom center, you can see the aircraft trailing. I don't know how visible it is to all of you, but that entire marine layer is aerosols, and all that blows in on us. And what happens when they aerosolize in the atmosphere? Again, it shreds ozone, and it diminishes and disperses rain. It reduces evaporation. This is as far as the rainfall in California, it's a 2 + 2 = 4 equation. Now, I presented this data to Gavin Newsom in the Capitol 2 months ago in his office with his aide. There's no question they got what I passed on to them, but apparently they're too comfortable in their job.
We stand today looking up into the sky and wondering what's going on, and it's loaded with chemicals, and some of the chemicals are heavy metals, aluminum and cadmium, beryllium, barium, a few others. And I do an awful lot of work, and so when we're looking at hair analysis, which is a low-level chronic toxicity analysis, I'm beginning to see more and more, particularly in the last 5 years, of our children having a spike of cadmium and aluminum. Now, we thought we had the aluminum under control back in the day by what we did with eliminating some of the foods, and mom's becoming better at that. But now we're seeing more of it starting to spike. So through my colleagues and through some conversations, we're finding that it's actually coming from the air. These nanoparticles of these heavy metals that are being sprayed are actually, we breathe them, and our children who play outside a lot become effective. And what this does is it affects your brain. It actually, we think it has something to do with the spike in the autism in the last 5 years, a 25% spike. We also think it has something to do with some of the dementia that we're seeing. There's been a spike in that as well. So trying to explain what happened in the last 5 years, really we can kind of go back to seeing what's going on in the sky is a player. As far as it is a huge player, of course, but the thing of it is, what do? We need to become aware. We need to become aware that our sky is falling, we're toxic.
Together, from the vaccination issue to the highly toxic climate engineering going on in our skies that's also raining down very toxic, neurologically damaging materials on us, to our toxic food, all of this glues together. All of it makes the population less cognitively functional, less healthy, and thus a lot easier to control for those in power. This is an undeniable fact, and for those who won't face that dark of a reality, you will face it sooner or later, like it or not. Denial won't save you. Climate engineering is nothing short of weather warfare. Due to the highly toxic materials the climate engineers are spraying into our skies and skies all over the globe, climate engineering must also be considered biological warfare. We're talking about materials like aluminum, barium, strontium. Who gave the government and other governments the right to play God with Earth's weather and climate systems? who gave them the right? Our apathy gives them the right. When we sit on the bench and do nothing while this is going on above our heads. Same is true with the vaccination cataclysm that's occurring because no one wants to stand out from the herd and say, no, this is wrong, it's enough. We have enough data now to prove what's happening is causing immense harm. It's time for us all to stand up and make our voices heard.
Ongoing drought has not just primed the landscape to burn, it's cut off water sources needed to fight the fires.
To its limit, others are pinning their hopes on a new material that lets electrons flow 1,000 times faster than they can in silicon. It's ultra thin and super strong, and it's called graphene.
And when graphene happened, I just couldn't stop myself from going into it. It was so beautiful, I just couldn't stop. I just immediately jumped onto it.
This is Dr. Pablo Jarillo Herrero, a professor at MIT and graphene guru.
Here I have graphene. Graphene is the thinnest material that exists. This is just one atom thick, okay, sheet of graphene. And you can see that it's perfectly visible. So it's part of the magic of graphene that you can just see it, even with your eyes.
You heard that right. This gray square of graphene is just a single atom thick. Although graphene was discovered only recently, it's been hiding in plain sight for ages. In a material you probably have on your desk, graphite, also known as pencil lead.
You can write with a pencil because graphite is a layered material, and as you write, you're leaving traces of these layers on your piece of paper. So graphene is really just one sheet of this graphite material, a one atom thick sheet.
That makes graphene an ideal conductor. At only one atom thick, there's nothing to restrict free electrons, which flow across the surface of the material like water across flat ice.
Graphene is a very special conductor, is the best conductor, and we're now studying those properties and learning how fantastic this material is.
And scientists have also figured out how to make transistors out of graphene, giving it the ability to speak the language that electronics and computers understand.
So I'm excited. It's beautiful. I mean, here you have a material that will enable high-speed, ultra-high-speed electronics working at very low power.
And one component is a piezoelectric nanocrystal. This is kind of a pure sample of the thing. You can see it has some kind of magnetism that makes the little particles join each other like magnets, which is one aspect of this piezoelectric properties. And the most amazing thing, if you look it up, piezoelectric properties could be expected with the barium strontium titanate, which is kind of the fingerprint, barium, titanium, strontium that we're looking for. There's no aluminum in it, but three of the elements are contained in this piezoelectric crystal, and we can see that this is a extreme interesting crystal because this is now a raindrop dried on a piece of glass, put under the microscope, and when you remove the top layer and then come with your finger close to the drop or just breathe on top of it, you will see certain effects appearing, and I'm going to show this to you. This is just a slight change in air temperature and infrared radiation from a human body.
It's alive.
We're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial
spraying dangerous chemicals over us from
Is the government experimenting with our weather?
Question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention.
Millions of tons of toxic poisons released by planes
during the Cold
as part of
War,
the
the
government
United
plot to
States
affect
military
climate change.
conducted
The government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather, leaving what you see there. They call that a chemtrail.
Geoengineering. They say it puts poison in the soil.
Tests show high levels of these chemicals in our rain and soil.
Using planes to spray chemicals into the atmosphere to manipulate what we saw.
And that's why health department records show a sharp increase in barium and aluminum.
5.